Utopian show with your host, Ben Ling. Tonight we will be discussing a Utopian society movement. The Utopian society movement, influenced by the Second Great Awakening, started in the early 1840s and strived to create perfect societies based on the beliefs of its members. So now, without further ado, two main players in this movement, John Humphrey Noyes and George. Gentlemen, tell us why you guys each wanted to start your own Utopian society.
Well, my purpose for Brook Farm was for it to be like Jerusalem, a city of God. I wanted Brook Farm to be a perfect society in which everyone was equal. My main goal was for the people to become more well-rounded intellectually as well as physically. I wanted to create a better individual out of each and every person that attended Brook Farm.
So this is kind of like the transcendentalist views, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. I would consider myself a transcendentalist and one of the main members of the transcendentalist movement of the 1830s.
Well, my goals and purposes are very similar to those of George's, but with a few twists. I wanted to create heaven on earth in the Oneida community. After much extensive study, I concluded that God returned to earth in 70 AD. Therefore, we can now live in a sin-free world and be sin-free individuals. I call this perfectionism. If I could create a sin-free community, then I could destroy the gap between heaven and earth.
Wow, John. Seems like you've spent much time in your studies. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Oneida community?
Besides modeling after heaven through perfectionism, I also focus on the beliefs of communism, complex marriage, and male continence.
What exactly are these beliefs, and how did you integrate them into your community?
Well, our community could have been considered a communistic one as a result of the shared workload and wealth among the individuals. Our most lucrative industrial products were silverware and steel fur traps. Also, each member had a job to do, which would benefit all the members as a whole, not just each individual. Complex marriage, which led to locals running me and my followers out of Putney in 1847, came from my study of heaven. After deep study of Christ's teachings and what some thought to be a mental breakdown, I came to the conclusion that there is no marriage in heaven. Therefore, to make the communities much like heaven on earth, I integrated it into the community.
How did you achieve this?
Within the community, there was no set marriage. Essentially, every man was married to every woman. But an important part to this idea was male continence, an effective form of birth.
Well, look who finally decided to stop talking.
Do you have something to say, Mr. Ripley?
Why, yes, I actually do. Unlike Mr. Noyes over here, our main economic base was agriculture. However, like John, I tried to model the community partly after heaven, and had the desire to create my own Garden of Eden. Also, within our agricultural community, members would have jobs they enjoyed. For instance, if a child liked to milk the cows, then they would be allowed to milk the cows. But if one wanted to work in the field, they could. Also, people could switch whenever they wanted, which would help them not get bored of their job, which helped increase the production of the agriculture. I also believe in a communist community in which all have equal compensation. So a child working in the field would make the same as an adult. Well, for one, I believe in Fourierism, which was created by Francis Charles Fourier. This idea is the belief that in a community, all social and commercial competition should be removed, relieving the stress to be the best. This allowed for a peaceful community. Meanwhile, Mr. Noyes' community was chaotic at best.
So, how did your communities turn out?
About that.
Well, I guess I'll go first. Everything went well in the first 30 years, but when I turned power over to my tyrannical son, Theodore, the community just went downhill. The idea of complex marriage was abandoned, and the people just did not like his iron fist rule.
Was it hard to adjust to the normal lifestyle?
I mean, they didn't like the single marriage, and they couldn't adjust.
And when was the community ended, exactly?
It was in 1881.
Okay.
Its final end.
Well, my demise was actually much simpler than Mr. Noyes. The downfall of Brook Farm was caused by a fire that destroyed the center of our community. We had put so much time, effort, and money into this community that when it burned to the ground, we were all devastated. Combined with our already low financial income, this fire caused us to enter a financial crisis. After the fire occurred in 1846, the bankruptcy caused Brook Farm to officially be closed in early 1847.
Thank you, John and George, for your participation. Thank you, audience, for tuning in to the Ben Lane Show. I'm your host, Ben Lane, and good night.